It started like any other day in the Sister Wives universe, or so fans thought. But what happened next sent shockwaves across social media and left the entire Brown family scrambling for answers. David Woolley, a name that had long hovered in the background of the Brown family saga, suddenly stepped into the spotlight with a move none would have predicted. He finally bought Coyote Pass, the sprawling property that has been the heart of so much drama, tension, and family conflict over the years. For years, Kody Brown was the undisputed figure controlling Coyote Pass. Every decision about who lives where, who gets privacy, and how the property operates fell within his watchful eye. The large estate was much more than a home. It was a sign of Kody's power, influence, and the delicate hierarchy of the Sister Wives family. Fans watched every gathering, every argument, every decision unfold on screen, seeing Kody manage the property as if it were a kingdom. And just like that, everything changed. In stepped David Woolley to buy the property, an action that has sent shockwaves through the family and the fandom in equal measure. This wasn't a casual purchase. It was a bold statement. It was a power move. It was a long overdue shakeup. Social media went absolutely wild the moment the news broke. Clips of David signing the papers circulated online, showing a confident, almost triumphant smile as he made the property his own. "This is my moment," his expression seemed to say. "Coyote Pass is mine now." Meanwhile, Kody Brown's reaction was priceless, as it was caught on camera during interviews and even through random paparazzi sightings. Shock, confusion, anger. Fans described it best: a feeling of humiliation and unbelief. The man who had long been the figurehead of this property suddenly had no control over it. But why did this announcement feel so personal to the fans? That's because Coyote Pass isn't just any property. It's supposed to be the central hub of the Sister Wives family, where children grew up, celebrations and disagreements happened, and every single decision Kody made had a ripple in the family. To see someone like David, a former family member, take ownership, it felt almost unreal. Adding to the drama, sources spilled that David's purchase wasn't all about money. As huge of a financial move it is to buy a property like that, this was legacy, control, and about making a statement. David had bit his tongue for years while Kody made decisions that affected the whole dynamic of the family. And for the first time, he had the ultimate upper hand. He could decide living arrangements, could enforce the rules, and could ultimately decide how life at Coyote Pass was going forward, maybe without Kody. That was when the fans immediately started trying to imagine what this could mean for the family. Does Kody try to negotiate? Is he forced to move? What does the wives' reaction look like? There were a host of social media comment threads that exploded overnight, proclaiming things like, "David just shook the entire Sister Wives world, and Kody has never been in such a vulnerable position before." The excitement was palpable, with anticipation for the next episode skyrocketing. Even more striking, however, was the timing of David's purchase. For months on end, there had been rumors of fissures in the family, with some even going as far as to say that Kody's management style was causing cracks in the relationships with his wives and children. David's entry into the scene at this particular juncture seemed almost like a calculated disruption. To some fans, he saw an opportunity not only to secure a valuable property, but also to insert his influence into a world where he had long been relegated to the sidelines. The acquisition also detonated several debates related to power, equity, and family dynamics among the large audience of Sister Wives fans. So many of them were enthralled by how an outsider of the current pecking order could swoop in and claim ownership of a plot so deeply identified with the Brown family. That Coyote Pass could operate quite well without Kody at the helm was a concept most barely associated. Interviews with David after the purchase showed a composed man, calm, and ready to take responsibility. Unlike Kody, whose decisions often stirred controversy and division, David seemed focused on stability, being fair, and some might say bringing some balance back into a property that had seen years of tension. "This is about making sure the property is respected and used properly," said David in one clip. "I want everyone to feel welcome, but I also have to make decisions that are right for the home." Meanwhile, Kody's response, or rather, his lack of response, continued to build suspense. Insiders close to him reported that the reality TV star was troubled to come to terms with the fact that he no longer had any estate control. Some insiders claim he even tried reaching out to David in private, offering to negotiate a way to stay involved. But David, not budging, reportedly repeated that ownership requires responsibility, and responsibility can't be shared. Unsurprisingly, the fanbase had a field day. Social media platforms were clogged with memes, speculation threads, and heated arguments. Some cheered on David as the hero who finally brought fairness and sanity to Coyote Pass, while others sympathized with Kody, saying no one deserves to be blindsided in this manner after years of devotion to a property and a family. But beyond the shock value and fan debates, one thing became crystal clear. David Woolley's purchase changed everything. It wasn't about owning a house. This was about redefining relationships, challenging authority, and creating a new chapter in the ongoing Sister Wives saga. The power dynamics that had so long ruled the family were suddenly disrupted, and this left the fans in eager waiting to see how the story would unfold. As the episode closed, the camera panned over Coyote Pass, the now familiar landscape that had been the backdrop for so many family moments. But there was a new owner now, new energy, and a new sense of uncertainty. And everyone who watched knew it would never be the same again. The excitement wasn't only limited to reality TV enthusiasts. A casual viewer was even taken by the audacity of the move. The fact that a former family member could just come in, purchase the central property, and immediately alter the dynamic in that family added such a layer of drama rarely achieved by reality TV. It was bold, shocking, and undeniably entertaining, perfectly storming for viral content. In the end, when the announcement came that David Woolley was buying Coyote Pass, news turned to revolution. Kody Brown, who had long been the figure of authority, suddenly faced the reality of his influence being challenged, his control questioned, and his legacy put to the test. And for the fans, it was just pure, unfiltered drama that had them glued to their screens, begging to see what would happen next. The moment David Woolley finalized the transfer of Coyote Pass, everything in Kody Brown's world, and, for that matter, the entire Sister Wives world, was turned on its head. For so long, there had only been one man who mattered at Coyote Pass. That man had been Kody. From every corner of the compound, with its sunny patios and secret spots for airing family disputes, he had maintained a vigilant presence. But it's all about to change. The man who had maintained an air of unshakability would soon be struck with a harsh dose of reality. Kody's response, as caught on camera and documented on interviews and some sneak peeks on social media sites, was a reaction ranging from shock, frustration, and perhaps even humiliation. Those who know the man have described it as an unusual moment, when the man who had controlled all these years was rendered helplessly unable to control the situation. People close to Kody have pointed out that he took the news like a ton of bricks. "He couldn't believe it," said an insider. "Coyote Pass meant more to him than anything. It meant everything he had created and controlled, and then it all disappeared." It was almost possible to see the turmoil on Kody's face as he realized he no longer had any control. Sans can pick out all the signals on Kody's face as he realized he no longer controlled his world. According to some sources, Kody began with secret talks with David. There were reports that there were late-night calls and text messages. During these interactions, Kody tried to get some common ground so that he might get back some degree of control. David, on the other hand, was resolute and uncompromising. According to sources, he told Kody, "Ownership comes with responsibility, and that's not negotiable." It appears that for the first time ever, Kody had met someone who would not bow down or compromise with him merely on account of being under his control. It was a reaction that is very different from what they are expecting from Kody. As seen on the show, they expect Kody, as a patriarch, to be very decisive and confident, sometimes almost to a fault. As he is the one who usually calls the shots, not just for himself and his wives, but for everyone. However, as it continues, Kody realized he can no longer dictate on something he once controlled. Twitter followers were clamoring for more. Lots of videos were shared and retweeted as people were fascinated with Kody's reactions. Some people on Twitter were sympathetic. "I don't even know how I would feel if I was caught so off guard." Kody has worked hard for Coyote Pass. However, some people pointed out that perhaps Kody brought about what happened because he had controlled everything all these years, and it's about time someone like David changed things around. The psychological effects on Kody were shown in his manner at these appearances. There were hints of frustration shown in pausing before speaking, an edge and emphasis in interviews that he rarely conveyed before, and even a hesitation before responding to questions about Coyote Pass. Even interactions with his wives and family were laced with tension, as if he were constantly aware of the truth that he had no control. To add salt to the wounds, it was happening in public. Unlike family matters that would be settled behind closed doors, what was happening at Coyote Pass was trending on social media and news cycles. All interviews, paparazzi pictures, and social media remarks offered a reflection on Kody's loss of control. It would appear that for Kody, who had prided himself on being a man who controlled appearances and maintained control, the challenge to control, as witnessed at Coyote Pass, would be hard hit. It's not just about losing a house. It's about losing an identity. Coyote Pass had, for so many years, been more than just a location. It had been the heart of everyday life, as well as Kody's position within that polygamous family dynamic. It was more than just a house. It was a foundation on which every choice made and every decree issued served as a testament to Kody's position as patriarch. David's acquisition was an affront to all that. Nevertheless, theories abounded among fans regarding what might develop. Would Kody turn the tables on someone and take them to court? Would he try buying back the land or working out some sort of deal with David? All the suspense added fuel to the drama as these individuals could picture an outright confrontation developing among these two completely different personalities. One who stood firm and resolute and determined, and another who was aggressive and determined to wield their newfound power. The reactions of the wives brought an added dynamic to the mix. Some were apparently torn between their loyalty to Kody and their admiration for David's audacious act. The rest were worried about how this change would impact family dynamics and living arrangements. A family gathering or an informal conversation would now be filled with tension as everyone knew that the dynamic had changed drastically. Moreover, This installment of the series also emphasizes an excellent theme that the audience relates to. Kody, who normally appears as a strong and composed character, also found himself caught up in a situation that not only put his character on test, but also his strength before millions of people. The audience was very well able to relate to his shock and surprise. David Woolley's confidence stood in marked contrast to Kody's vulnerable position. All David's appearances before and subsequent to the acquisition conveyed a sense of a tempered man ready and eager to assume control and assert his rights with regard to the property. The contrast between David's composed manner and Kody's frustrated responses caused a degree of irresistible drama that captured everyone's interest on social media. The contrast between these two men created a degree of irresistible drama. Nevertheless, Kody's reaction will remain a historical reminder of what can be achieved and unachieved in family life and within a world such as the reality TV world, where every move made affects everyone. Losing Coyote Pass meant so much more to Kody than just an income. It meant a loss of an emotional and psychological haven. It meant an attack on Kody's leadership. It meant yet another chapter within the story of sister wives. As all this drama continues to play out, it leaves the audience on the edge of their seats, waiting for and expecting any bit of news that may come. The conflict between David and Kody is more than just a tale about land. It is an arena of strength, pride, and man's challenge to cope with defeat as soon as he loses control. And as for what Kody may have up his sleeve next, it's clear that there will never be a return to normalcy for the world of sister wives. The patriarch who once ruled Coyote Pass with an iron fist will have to navigate a new epoch where he and his actions are under siege, with focus on more than just who will share whose bed. But for millions of sister wives watchers, this dynamic and ever unpredictable drama makes it a truly golden form of reality television. The news headlines were screaming about David Woolley's astonishing acquisition of Coyote Pass and Kody Brown's jaw-dropping reaction. But beneath all that emotion, there was an even more interesting drama taking place: David's internal agenda. The audience at home understood the externally visible action. A family member acquiring a piece of property integral to the Brown family drama. The question on everyone's mind, however, was, why David and why now? To grasp David's motivation here, it's necessary to examine his background with this family. It's not as if David was some random purchaser making a quick investment. David had a dynamic relationship with the Browns, and more specifically with Kody. David understood the dynamic, tension, and politics surrounding life at Coyote Pass. It becomes clear he had seen family disputes occur that he didn't agree with, and realized how Kody controlled not only the women, but also the kids. David's acquisition of Coyote Pass was no mere business deal. It also made a statement. It allowed David to retake control of an area that had once been so closely linked with family and personal memories. According to sources within David's camp, he had wanted to intervene for a long time but had not seen an opportune moment arise. Until now. He's been watching and waiting and thinking hard about it, said a source. This isn't something he did on a whim. David wanted to make sure he made a meaningful contribution. Unlike Kody, David's motives seemed to be based more on concepts such as fairness, responsibility, and justice. It seemed that he wanted to prove that running Coyote Pass isn't about having authority for the sake of having it, but about having it because it's about respect and getting things balanced. It seemed as if he were taking on a task that everyone would agree would be almost impossible. To have to deal with a land fraught with tension and get things stable would be an almost unbeatable task. The personal side of David's decision to make the move should not be underestimated. It seems that David had some sort of issue with Kody from before, and it may have given him the drive he needed, whether it be disagreements on family matters or disagreements about equality and respect. David and Kody have had a complicated relationship. It goes without saying that David's acquisition at Coyote Pass represented more than just acquiring a new home. It represented David's confidence that he could better run it. The drama, on and off screen, caught the attention of social media followers very quickly. Talk went on various platforms with theories like David is on a revenge mission, and David is finally taking charge because he's going to bring perfection to a family that's going out of control. And there would be some truth to these theories, as David had some very telling interviews based on which it seemed he wanted Coyote Pass to be a place where people would be listened to, looked after, and made to feel safe. That would be my intention all along. Yet another insider revealed that David had planned it this way. As he realized that there were times in the family when there were disagreements about cohabitation, money matters, and child rearing, he chose a perfect timing for buying Coyote Pass. It would shake things up. It would make a statement. It's not just a house he wanted. It's a message. He wanted to get there and make it better than anyone would have predicted. The move also brought David's confidence with skills to the fore. David had an understanding of what worked and what didn't at Coyote Pass. David recognized the challenges associated with running an establishment that served as a family center, an office, and a stage for reality TV. David took control not because he wanted control, but because he took control because it was something he owed himself and everyone involved. David knew he was walking into a firestorm, but he also knew he had what it took. The couple's followers were amazed at this turn of events. David was praised for taking a very bold move that very few people would have made. Some people thought that this could be an inspiration for Kody to evaluate his life and leadership. But there were some who thought that there could be a power struggle that might break apart this family, or make them focus on problems they have been swept under the rug for years. Personal motivations for David were also heightened because of the emotional investment associated with the property itself. Coyote Pass was more than structures and acreage. It had history, drama, and memories. A corner of that property had stories of celebrations, disagreements, makeups, and broken hearts. David's buying that property meant he was making an investment, but it also meant he was walking into a facility that had been emotionally invested for several years. It was David's statement about his own presence within that family dynamic, albeit tangentially. At the same time, Kody was still at the center of the drama. David's buying Coyote Pass was not just a family affair, but also a statement made against Kody. Moreover, David's acquisition also meant that it hit Kody below his belt, because he had made a life out of running Coyote Pass. Coyote Pass buying Coyote Pass meant that it hit Kody on an emotional and mental level, and he could not resist it. Social media discussions were heated, as everyone from couch experts on Twitter to common people tried to dissect every single thing David and Kody were doing. It would appear, quite interestingly, that David's motivation also had a sense of a long-term plan. David didn't just have a motivation for asserting his dominance, but also a drive for ensuring that there is an understanding and notion of fairness and stability. There have been reports suggesting that David plans on making some changes at the property. It could be changes in living arrangements, interactions within the family, and even organizational changes. These reports, as yet unconfirmed, were enough to bring extra suspense among the fans. The more personal side of David's relocation became even clearer as David began talking about legacy. During interviews, he made it fairly clear that Coyote Pass might offer some insights into ways that family and property might more harmoniously coexist. "This place has been through a lot," David said. "It's about time someone came at it with some respect, some fairness, and some sense." Many people watching took David's words and realized he clearly had some very pointed comments for Kody. David's buying act marked a personal and communal triumph in itself. It was more than an act, it was an event. David had been observing, waiting, and scheming, and he finally had a chance to make his moves. David's act would soon make it clear that it had more to do with a storyline on a reality show than with anything else. It had more to do with real politics and personal knowledge. As news broke, responses flooded in. Some were pleased with David's stand, terming it the boldest move ever made within the sister wives family. But David's actions raised questions about morality and justice, with people pondering whether it was right for David to confront Kody so bluntly. But there was no debate on one thing. David Woolley had just upped the stakes. It became evident at the end of this session that David had very complex motivations. These included strategy, background, motivation, and the need to build a more equal and just environment. It was not just revenge that he sought, but an opportunity to accept a very personally significant site that had been mismanaged for too long by someone else. It added layers for audience members. It took it beyond ownership and made it about emotions and taking action at the right times. David Woolley's acquisition of Coyote Pass meant something, and it brought people on board, and it set up audience members for what would be next. While it was all a buzz about David Woolley's astonishing acquisition of Coyote Pass and Kody Brown's jaw-dropping reaction, more drama was taking place secretly within the family. For a long time, the Brown family had been operating within a carefully planned structure, with Kody at the top and making all the decisions about family dwellings, money, and dynamics. But with David's intervention as the new owner of the property, it all came crumbling down. According to family sources, Coyote Pass family members were tense and apprehensive about what might happen. Members among Kody's wives were shocked when they realized that a family member had ended up taking control of the very area that they had lived and grown up in. According to a source, it was like watching members of the family breathe for the first time and at the same time hold their breath. Nobody knew what next. The reaction of the wives ranged from shock and worry to curiosity. Some women were reportedly relieved that maybe with David around, there would be more balance within the family. But some were worried about Kody's reaction and what might happen within their lives with David as an added family possession. It had been years since the family structure wasn't based solely on Kody's rules and will, and no one knew what to make of it. Everything was made more complicated as family members considered loyalty and feasibility. Some women took a liking to David's decisiveness and visionary approach. To them, he seemed like a source of stability. David was ready to fill a position that demanded accountability, equity, and intelligent thinking, traits some women argued were sometimes missing under Kody's leadership. But some family members were torn. Their loyalty to Kody was deep. The prospect of someone who once belonged to their family telling them what to do, as it related to a very personal area of life, seemed hard to swallow. This turmoil was not only emotional, it was logistical. There were questions about who would end up living where, and what impact changes might have on property management that might disrupt the family's settled life. A source reports that members of the family began speculating among themselves about what might happen once a new owner took possession and what might affect their lives. Those questions included changes that might be made about where they would be living, changes that might be made regarding their privacy, and changes that might be made with regards to child rearing. Social media sites were also instrumental in spreading the drama. Fans were quick to latch onto the tension and began speculating wildly about what might be happening among the family members. Messages, memes, and threads began popping up left and right as people commented on what they thought would happen among the wives and what moves Kody would make next. The drama within the family members became showtime for everyone as they analyzed every single interview, hint of emotion, and word. Kody's authority and David's developing control were some of the factors causing all the drama. It had been a while since Kody had been the ruling authority on the ranch, dictating rules and regulations on matters pertaining to the operation of the property. But all these were being put into question, and it seemed as though they no longer counted. Members of the family were caught up in an intricate position involving a new owner while still being associated with Kody and an environment with no predictability. As sources revealed, some members of the family have realized that David's acquisition would be a wake-up call on Kody's leadership. According to them, David's actions would show everyone what he could not deliver. A source said, "It's not just about a house. It's about control, influence, and family dynamic. David intervening is making everyone look at what they have been doing for years, and it's uncomfortable but necessary." The emotions were running very high. Children from Kody were said to be caught up in the crossfire and were undecided about whose leadership they were supposed to follow. Dialogues that before were very easy and uncomplicated were now clouded with tension as they struggled with loyalty and feelings. Something as easy as having meals together became something unpleasant and uncomfortable. However, aside from the tension based on emotions, there were some logistical considerations as well, with regards to living arrangements and privacy. Coyote Pass is more than just a house. It's an expansive estate that contains several homes, as well as places that are conducive for family bonding, and some spots that have been associated with memories. With David as a new owner, there were some changes that could be brought about with regards to schedules, and some adjustments as to space within the family members. Adding to all these tense moments was the unpredictability of Kody's actions. According to sources, he continued to have problems processing not only a loss of control, but also how he might be able to assert control and influence without causing tension or alienating family members. All these factors created an environment where every encounter became a flashpoint. Fans were completely engaged with the problems that were unfolding within this family. The comment sections on places like Reddit and Twitter were ablaze with theories, speculations, and discussions on all sides. There were people who were with David, commending him on bringing so much needed equality and accountability. And then there were people who were on Kody's side, understanding that he had created a life and a family that should be appreciated, no matter how wrong he may have gone sometimes. The problems within the family were reflective of the larger drama and have always enticed people who watch Sister Wives. The situation with the family in turmoil brought about another common theme running within the series. The family members were finding it hard to integrate personal emotions with family responsibilities. All members would have to make a tough choice between standing with Kody and reacting rationally and emotionally towards David's new acquisition. Feelings within the family included feelings of guilt, and some members were happy with new changes. Despite the struggles that were present within the family at this stage, David remained a composed and measured individual. According to sources, David's strategy would include steps and measures that would allow him to assert his authority without pressing family members for a reaction. It would appear that this strategy served as an added complication. At the end of it all, it is imperative to note that the struggles within the Brown family bring with them the humanity that comes with the whole incident. It is not just about a house and a reality show, but about how family members deal with change and any form of conflict. Within the Brown family, Coyote Pass will ever be more than a house. It represents home and family, as it has stood for generations. The whole family thus had a disrupted life, with the possibility of it ending up with a stranger. As the fan base continues watching, there appears to be no end in sight to the drama. All family discussions, personal choices, and public declarations only fan the flames. The viewing audience is stuck to either social media or the series, waiting with bated breath on what the Brown family will do and what changes David will make at Coyote Pass. However, one thing that is very clear is that it is a family in turmoil, and that is what pulls at everyone's strings. It may be getting all the publicity for David's purchase and Kody's shock, but it is what goes on within this family that keeps everyone hooked. It might be confusing and messed up for these women, as well as the kids and even Kody, but it makes for some very exciting television. Conclusion. As can be seen, the drama at Coyote Pass illustrates that within family, change can be very disrupting, emotive, and unpredictable. The Brown family now finds itself within a scenario where traditional family structure and loyalty stand side by side with a new, dynamic family structure brought about by David Woolley's daring family act. This is what fans want to experience: drama that is emotive, unpredictable, and compelling. Now, as dust was starting to set from David Woolley's stunning purchase of Coyote Pass, the million-dollar question was, well, quite simple. What was next? The move had already shaken up the family of sister wives, and its fan base too. But now was the real tension, the uncertainty of the future for Kody Brown on that lot. Was he getting kicked out? Or could he somehow redeem himself? The family was in suspense, like viewers who were glued to their screens. This was a bitter pill for Kody to swallow, as Coyote Pass had long served purposes that went far beyond the realms of mere ownership. It symbolized his leadership, impact, and very identity as the head. Losing control over it, even if temporary, was a psychological blow. Insiders close to the family say Kody was in denial at first over the legal reality. David was not only the new owner, but was within his right to make decisions regarding the estate, including the right to evict Kody from the property. To find himself in a situation where he had to obey someone else after years of being in control was just the opposite of everything he was familiar with, a dramatic reversal of fortune that reached far beyond his authority into his ego. Speculation about eviction went viral in no time on social media. The fans filled forums, comment sections, and discussion boards with theories. Some predicted a sudden and dramatic eviction, where David would apply his rights immediately. Others thought that David, being an aware man, knowing the sensitive dynamics of the family, would not be rash in handling it. Instead, he would try to handle the situation with much balance, so that relationships could be retained along with the assertion of control. The suspense fueled endless debates. Would Kody be forced off the property? And would he graciously submit to David's authority? Or would tensions further escalate? From a practical standpoint, evictions were not that easy. Coyote Pass is more than just one big house. It's an estate with houses, shared spaces, and years of history in every nook and cranny. Evicting Kody or making big changes would entail lots of complicated negotiations and legal and emotional wrangling. Even for David, who had bought the property with a fair dose of chutzpah, the balancing act between authority and family harmony was monumental. Insiders close to David say that he has been weighing how far to press his legal rights against the emotional impact it would have on the family. Sources close to him say that he now wishes to flex muscles, but not at the risk of sowing bitterness and drama that threatens to tear the family further asunder. According to those close to him, David is treading with a careful mind, thinking of who should stay with him, who should relocate, and how he should institute new boundaries without turning anyone against him when this could be avoided. Meanwhile, Kody's emotional journey is ongoing. Viewers describe the man experiencing a cocktail of frustration, vulnerability, and reflection as he faces a situation he has never been in before. A reality where he's not in control anymore, but in a position in which his control is in question, and his future on the property is undetermined. It is a really humiliating experience for the patriarch, bound to make him question not only the challenges he is facing, but also his leadership, adaptability, and family dynamics internally. It doesn't end there, though. Kody's wives fall right in the middle, unsure of how to act amidst the changing dynamics. Some reportedly hope for compromise, desiring to hold the family together while respecting David's ownership. Others are curious about possible changes that could make life at Coyote Pass better, especially if David's way is more structured and fair. The children also deal with the uncertainty, learning to adapt to a different authority figure in a place that has always been the center of their lives. Social media has turned into a virtual guerrilla battlefield, with fans predicting a number of possibilities. From some massive confrontation between Kody and David that would involve verbal spats, interviews, and tense family meetings, to others hoping for a more diplomatic outcome in which Kody and David come to an understanding that allows relationships to remain intact while setting boundaries. Whichever scenario it may be, one thing is for sure: the suspense just keeps on and on, keeping fans glued to their screens for every latest development that might come along. And then there's the emotional weight of the eviction itself. For Kody, it wouldn't be a logistical nuisance to have to vacate Coyote Pass. It would be a symbolic defeat, the public admission that his authority had been challenged and control had shifted. It would be one of those moments reality TV viewers would remember for years, and it's precisely the kind of high-stakes drama that makes the Sister Wives franchise so compelling. But the potential for redemption is an equally interesting prospect. While eviction is a legal one, David might permit Kody an alternative avenue, one which allows him to remain at Coyote Pass, while ultimately relenting and recognizing the authority of David. This might be played out in terms of compromise on how property is used, or on what grounds living accommodations or decision-making structures are developed mutually. For the viewers, this would provide a resolution that combines suspense and relief, while underscoring the multifaceted facets of family, authority, and compromise. The idea of redemption really works because the framing is done in human terms. Kody's story isn't necessarily about power. It's more about adaptation, humility, and resilience. His response to David's acquisition will define his legacy with the family and public perception. Can he rise to the challenge, accept this new dynamic, and figure out how to coexist with David? Or do tensions rise to conflict, confrontation, and possibly even court? Everything keeps them on edge. Meanwhile, the role of David in this unfolding drama is just as compelling. Unlike most reality TV villains, he is calm, strategic, and deliberating upon his actions, with full knowledge of the power he possesses and the emotional response that surrounds it. Buying Coyote Pass was quite a statement on his part, but his future actions will conclude whether he is a valid, fair, and wise authority figure, or one to add to the conflict. The fans are observing carefully, trying to find any clue in every decision, gesture, and comment where this storytelling is heading. Insiders close to the situation say that David's ultimate goal might be one of restoring order, making things fair for everyone, and bringing a semblance of harmony to Coyote Pass. That may mean establishing rules over common areas, setting boundaries, and even reordering the family interactions on the property. Change is coming, but David's thoughtful planning suggests stability instead of chaos, a factor that makes the unfolding drama at once suspenseful and deeply human. For the audience, this last chapter of the story carries a lesson in might, adaptability, and human consequence to change. Even as headlines tend to tell the tale of property and authority, it is the emotional layers, fear, uncertainty, hope, and resilience that would make this story so engrossing. This is no fan watching a simple transaction over property. Fans are into a real-life saga, a sort of story about how families overcome disruption, how authority bears challenges, and how redemption or conflict shapes the end result. The speculation about eviction versus redemption hovers over the discussions as the story unfolds. Will Kody leave of his own volition, try to negotiate terms, or attempt to regain his place in the household through legal or social pressures? Others predict moments of collaboration, compromise, and personal growth that might redefine the family dynamic in unforeseen ways. Each scenario is dramatic and will be tension-filled, emotionally engrossing for viewers from episode to episode. Ultimately, eviction or redemption is not strictly about space. It's about relationships, legacy, and the resilient human spirit. Kody's response, David's strategy, and the family's reaction will determine how this chapter of the Sister Wives story unfolds. Will this be a story of conflict, division, and loss? Or will it evolve into a narrative about reconciliation, understanding, and unexpected growth? The suspense is what keeps millions of viewers tuned in. In the end, Session 5 is the apex of drama that has been ignited by David Woolley's purchase of Coyote Pass. The future of Kody Brown is undetermined on the property. Family dynamics are fragile, and the fans are hooked. Every decision, every reaction, every development will be under scrutiny, dissection, and discussion. This is more than reality TV. It is a story of power, pride, and the ever-changing landscape of family, authority, and redemption.